The helicopter was falling. Not crashing, not yet, but falling in a way that made my stomach flip and my fingers claw into the leather seat. The storm outside roared like a living thing, throwing rain against the windows so hard I couldn't see anything but darkness and streaks of water. The engine sputtered. The pilot's voice crackled through the headset, tense and clipped, talking to someone about emergency protocols and descent angles. And Damien Cole, my boss, the man I'd worked for in silence for 3 years, sat across from me with his jaw locked tight, eyes fixed on nothing, like he was calculating our survival chances in real time. I wanted to scream. I wanted to cry. I wanted to ask him if we were going to die. But I didn't. Because that's not who I was around him. Around Damien, I was composed. Professional. Invisible. Even now, as the world tilted sideways and my heart hammered so hard I thought my ribs might crack. Aria. His voice cut through the chaos. Low. Steady. Like the storm didn't exist. I looked at him. We're going to be fine. I didn't believe him. But I nodded anyway. Let me back up. My name is Aria Daniels, and I've been Damien Cole's executive secretary for 3 years. 3 years of early mornings, late nights, perfectly brewed coffee, flawlessly organized schedules, and absolutely zero personal acknowledgement. He was the kind of man people whispered about in elevators, cold, brilliant, untouchable. The kind of CEO who could dismantle a competitor with a single phone call and never blink. He didn't smile. He didn't small talk. He didn't notice me. Or at least, I thought he didn't. I'd grown used to it. The distance. The formality. The way he'd glance at me just long enough to give an instruction, then look away like I'd already disappeared. It was easier that way. Safer. Because the truth was, I'd been harboring a quiet, pathetic crush on him since my second week on the job, and the only way to survive it was to bury it so deep even I forgot it was there most days. But that night, the night everything changed, started like any other impossible demand. Aria, clear your evening. We're flying to Seattle. It was 4 p.m. on a Friday. I had plans. Well, no, I didn't. But I could have had plans. Seattle? I echoed, fingers already opening his calendar on my tablet. The Hargrove deal. They're getting cold feet. I need to close it tonight. Tonight? His eyes flicked to me. Pale gray, sharp enough to cut. Is that a problem? No, sir. It was always no, sir. Even when I wanted to say, yes, actually, it's a huge problem because I'm exhausted and you never say thank you and sometimes I wonder if you even know my last name. But I didn't say that. I never did. So I grabbed my coat, sent a quick text to my roommate, and followed Damien Cole into the private elevator that led to the rooftop helipad. The flight to Seattle was smooth. Professional. He worked on his laptop. I reviewed contracts. We didn't speak unless necessary. It was exactly what I expected. The meeting went well. Better than well. Damien was a force of nature in negotiation, controlled, commanding, impossible to refuse. By 9 p.m., the deal was signed, and we were back in the helicopter, cutting through the night sky toward home. That's when the storm hit. It came out of nowhere. One moment, the air was clear. The next, we were inside a wall of wind and rain so violent the helicopter jerked sideways. I gasped. Damien's hand shot out, gripping the armrest beside me, not touching me, but close. Protective. Stay calm, he said. Like I had a choice. The pilot's voice crackled again. We've got engine trouble. I'm looking for a place to put down. How bad? Damien's voice was ice. Bad enough. We're going down, Mr. Cole. But I'll get us down safe. I don't remember breathing. I don't remember thinking. I just remember the horrible, weightless feeling as the helicopter descended too fast, the trees rushing up toward us, the impact that wasn't quite a crash but wasn't quite a landing either, a jarring, bone-rattling thud that threw me forward against my seatbelt and made my teeth slam together. Then silence. Just rain. And wind. And the ticking of cooling metal. Aria. I opened my eyes. Damien was unbuckling his seatbelt, already moving toward me. His hands found my shoulders, firm and warm. "Are you hurt?" I shook my head. My voice came out small. "I don't think so." He studied me for a beat longer than necessary, then nodded. "Good." The pilot was already on the radio, trying to reach someone, anyone. But the storm had knocked out communications. No signal. No GPS. No idea when help would come. We were alone. In the middle of a forest. In a storm. And all I could think was, why does he smell like cedar and smoke, and why am I noticing that right now? The pilot, Jefferson, a man in his 50s with kind eyes, did his best to stay calm. He explained that the emergency beacon was active, that search and rescue would find us eventually, but with the storm, it could be hours. Maybe longer. "There's an emergency kit in the back," Jefferson said. "Blankets, water, flares. We'll be okay until morning." Damien didn't look convinced. But he nodded. "We'll set up inside the cabin. It's not safe out there." He wasn't wrong. The wind howled like something alive, and the rain came down in sheets. The helicopter had landed, if you could call it that, in a small clearing surrounded by towering pines. The forest pressed in on all sides, dark and endless. Jefferson grabbed the kit. Damien grabbed me. Not roughly. Just, his hand on my elbow, guiding me back into my seat as he pulled a thermal blanket from the kit and draped it over my shoulders. "You're shaking," he said. I was. I hadn't noticed. "I'm fine." "You're not." His voice softened. "Just a fraction." "But you will be." Something in my chest twisted. Jefferson set up a small battery-powered lantern, casting the cabin in a weak, golden glow. We rationed the water. We stayed quiet. And slowly, the adrenaline started to fade, replaced by exhaustion and cold. "Try to sleep," Damien said. I almost laughed. "Sleep? We'll need our energy tomorrow." "For what?" "For surviving." The word hit me harder than it should have. Surviving. Like this was real. Like we were actually stranded. I pulled the blanket tighter and closed my eyes. But I didn't sleep. How could I, when Damien Cole was less than 3 feet away, close enough that I could hear him breathing? Morning came slow and gray. The storm had passed, but the damage was done. The helicopter's engine was beyond Jefferson's ability to repair. The radio was dead. And the emergency beacon, while active, gave no indication when rescue would arrive. "We need to conserve supplies," Jefferson said. "And stay warm. It's going to get cold tonight." Damien was already moving, assessing, planning. That's what he did. He controlled things. Even when the world was falling apart. "We'll need firewood," he said. "Aria, stay inside. I'll handle it." "I can help." He paused. Looked at me. Really looked at me, like he was seeing me for the first time. "You don't have the right shoes." I glanced down at my heels, sleek, black, completely impractical. He wasn't wrong. "Then I don't know. Organize supplies?" The corner of his mouth twitched. Not quite a smile. But close. "Fine." And just like that, we fell into a rhythm. Damien and Jefferson gathered wood. I sorted through the emergency kit, rationing food and water, setting up a makeshift shelter inside the helicopter using blankets and seat cushions. It felt absurd. Domestic. Like playing house in the middle of a nightmare. But it also felt real. For the first time in 3 years, Damien wasn't my boss. He was just a man. Tired. Focused. Human. And I was just a woman trying not to fall apart. By nightfall, the temperature had dropped. We built a small fire just outside the helicopter, close enough for warmth but far enough to be safe. Jefferson took the first watch, insisting Damien and I rest. We didn't argue. Inside the cabin, wrapped in blankets, I sat across from Damien in the dim glow of the lantern. The silence stretched between us, heavy and strange. "You did well today," he said finally. I blinked. "What?" "You stayed calm. Stayed useful. Not everyone would." Heat crept up my neck. "I just did what needed to be done." "Exactly." He leaned back, his eyes on the ceiling. In the low light, he looked different. Softer. The sharp edges worn down. "Can I ask you something?" I said before I could stop myself. His gaze shifted to me. "Go ahead. Why did you insist I come tonight? You could have brought anyone. Or no one." For a long moment, he didn't answer. Then, "Because I trust you." 3 words. Simple. Devastating. "You trust me? You're the only person in that office who doesn't want something from me." His voice was quiet. Honest. "You do your job. You don't play games. You don't ask for favors. You're just steady." I didn't know what to say. My heart was doing something dangerous in my chest. "I thought you didn't notice me," I whispered. His eyes locked on mine. "I notice everything about you, Aria." The air between us shifted. Charged. Electric. I should have looked away. Should have changed the subject. Should have remembered who he was, who I was, why this was a terrible idea. But I didn't. "Why didn't you ever say anything?" I asked. "Because you work for me. Because it wouldn't be fair. Because," he stopped. Exhaled. "Because I didn't think you'd want to hear it." What if I did? The question hung there, fragile and reckless. Damien leaned forward, close enough that I could see the gold flecks in his gray eyes. "Then I'd tell you that you're the first person I think about every morning. That I've memorized the way you take your coffee. That I've spent 3 years trying not to cross a line I shouldn't cross." My breath caught. "Damien. But we're not in the office anymore." His voice dropped. Rough. Raw. And I'm tired of pretending. He didn't kiss me. Not yet. But the wanting was so thick I could taste it. "I don't want to be another mistake you make," I whispered. "You wouldn't be. You don't know that." "I do." His hand lifted, hesitated, then brushed a strand of hair from my face. The touch was so gentle it hurt. "You're not a mistake, Aria. You never were." And God help me, I believed him. We didn't kiss that night. But something between us broke open. Something we'd both been holding back for far too long. We talked instead. About everything. About nothing. He told me about growing up in boarding schools, about building his company from nothing, about the loneliness that came with success. I told him about my family, about my dreams of writing, about how sometimes I felt invisible in a city of millions. And for the first time, I wasn't his secretary. I was just Aria. And he was just Damien. When I finally fell asleep, It was with my head resting against his shoulder, his arm wrapped around me, his heartbeat steady beneath my ear. The next day was harder. Rescue still hadn't come. Supplies were running low. The cold was worse. And the reality of our situation started to settle in. We could be here for days. But Damien didn't panic. He built a better fire. He fashioned a rain catch for water. He kept Jefferson's spirits up, kept me warm, kept us all moving forward. And I saw him. Really saw him. Not the billionaire. Not the CEO. Just a man who'd learned to survive alone and was learning, maybe for the first time, what it felt like to need someone. "Why do you do it?" I asked him that afternoon as we sat by the fire. "Do what?" "Push everyone away." He was quiet for a long time. Then, "Because it's easier than losing them." The honesty gutted me. "You won't lose me," I said. He looked at me, something broken and hopeful in his eyes. "Promise?" "Promise." And I meant it. That night, the temperature plummeted. Even with the fire, even with the blankets, the cold was brutal. Jefferson had taken shelter in the cockpit, giving Damien and me the cabin. We huddled together, sharing body heat, sharing space, sharing breath. "Aria," Damien murmured against my hair. "If we don't make it out, don't. Listen to me." His arms tightened around me. "If we don't make it, I need you to know, you changed everything." Tears stunned my eyes. "Damien, stop. We're going to be fine. I mean it." You walk into a room and everything gets quieter. Clearer. You make the world feel less heavy. I turned in his arms, facing him in the darkness. "You make me feel brave," I whispered. His forehead pressed against mine. "Then be brave with me." And this time, when he kissed me, I kissed him back. It wasn't wild. It wasn't desperate. It was soft and slow and full of every unspoken thing we'd carried for 3 years. His hands cradled my face like I was something precious. My fingers tangled in his hair. And for a moment, the cold didn't exist. The fear didn't exist. Nothing existed but us. When we finally pulled apart, breathless and aching, he whispered, "I don't want to go back." "To the office?" "To pretending." I smiled against his lips. "Then let's not." Rescue came the next morning. A helicopter appeared over the trees just after dawn, the sound of rotors cutting through the silence like salvation. Jefferson shouted. I cried. Damien held my hand so tight I thought my bones might break. We were airlifted out within the hour. And just like that, the forest was behind us. But the ride back to the city was quiet. Too quiet. Damien sat across from me again, just like before. But this time, his eyes kept finding mine. This time, his hand rested on the seat between us, palm up, waiting. I slid my fingers into his. And he smiled. A real smile. Soft and rare and devastating. When we landed on the rooftop of Cole Enterprises, reality came crashing back. Reporters. Employees. Questions. Chaos. But Damien didn't let go of my hand. Even when his assistant rushed forward with a phone. Even when the board members swarmed him. Even when the cameras flashed. He held on. And when we finally stepped into the elevator alone, he pulled me into his arms and kissed me like the world wasn't watching. What happens now? I whispered. He smiled against my lips. Now we stop pretending. It wasn't perfect. The media had a field day. The board raised eyebrows. HR had concerns. But Damien didn't care. He promoted me, not because of us, but because I deserved it. He made us public. He stopped hiding. And I stopped being invisible. We still fought. We still had hard days. But we also had mornings tangled in his sheets, laughing over coffee. We had late nights in his office, stealing kisses between meetings. We had each other. And that was enough. A year later, we went back. To the forest. To the clearing where the helicopter had landed. Where everything had changed. Damien held my hand as we stood in the exact spot we'd survived together. "You know what I realized," he said. "What?" "I wasn't lost that night." He turned to me, eyes soft. "I was found." I smiled, tears blurring my vision. "Me too." He pulled a small box from his pocket. And in the place where we'd almost lost everything, he asked me to choose everything. I said yes. Because some love stories don't start with a meet-cute or a grand gesture. Some start with a fall. And sometimes, the fall is exactly what you need to finally fly.